Hi, my name is Jim Balla. I'm one of the tech guys here at Buyers Products. Today's video is going to show you how to install one of our SHPE Series Spreaders. Now today we'll be installing the SHPE 2000, which is our 2-yard spreader, and you're going to need, a 2500 plus truck to handle the weight with the salt in it. But before we get any further, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and become part of the Buyers family, the SaltDogg family. So one thing we want to talk about first is this is how your spreader comes. It's on a skid, it's all wrapped up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wrapping off, the banding, and inside here is your chute, your tarp, and your controller bucket. It comes with the straps and everything in the bucket. So I'm going to get that out, and then we're going to put this in the truck. Now there's a few ways you can put this in the truck too. So there is some D-rings. There's 4 D-rings on each of the side of the spreader, 2 on each side. You could use like a crane or something, but today we're going to use a tow motor. So let me get this stuff out and then we'll get this loaded onto the back of the truck. All right, so I'm slowly bringing it into the truck. What you want to do is kind of make sure that's even on both sides, but we can adjust it after we drop it in. So one thing you might want to consider also is before putting in a salt spreader, maybe a rubber floor mat for the truck. This way you keep your truck protected from the salt and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop it in there. Again, this one's really close to its max because we're using the bed's 6'6", and this one is spreader is a little bit bigger than that, which should hang past the bumper a little bit, which is fine. All right, so now we got the spreader in. Okay, now what I want to do, I made sure it's all pushed all the way up. Now on some spreaders, if you had an 8-foot bed, you would have to build like a little box that goes in the front from the cab to the spreader, just so it doesn't hit your window. So again, if we had a smaller spreader, we might have to do that, just to build a box so it will not, and it says in the instructions, made of 2x4s, 2x6s, make a little frame. But this one goes right up against the bed, so we're good there. But now I just want to go, I'm just going to measure it, So I got 6.5, and I got 7.5. So again, I'm just going to move it over a little bit, just so it's like even. Not much. A little bit in the back here. I'm going to push it a little bit. All right, so I got 8. Taper a little bit. 7. 7. And about 8 1/4. So that's pretty good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the straps on. Again, sorry for the noise. We are working in the shop today, so we're going to get a little noise from other people that are working. I'm working too, but again, so what we give you in the bag here is 4 straps. Now, what you want to do is locate the hooks on each truck. Now, each truck's a little different. So on this Dodge, they're right in here. There's a hook here, and then there's a hook up front. And what we want to do is with the straps is we want to cross them. So this tie down here is going to go to the front, and this tie down here is going to go to the back. So let me get that done. All right, so I got both straps on, and they're a little snug, but I want them so it's all the way back to the cab. All right, so now it's tight against the cab. Both sides are snug. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the other straps on from there, again, to the hooks on the back part of the bed here. So, all right, so I got both straps now tightened down on both sides. Now a little trick I do, because you have all this excess, you can cut it and heat it up so it doesn't fray, but what I do is just, put it all back together, kind of roll it. Because you want to make it look nice and neat. And then once I get it to a point, then I'm just going to put just a nice black tie on it, just to keep it keep your equipment looking good. So there you go, like that. And there you go. So it's all good now. All right. Next thing, so we haven't used really any tools yet, but one of the big tools, in case these trucks are really big now, of course, is my my little step here. That's one of the first tools you're going to need in today's video. But next thing is we're going to break out the controller and the wiring, and we're going to go through that. All right, it's time to get the wiring out of the bucket. Now, most people say, hey, let's just peel this back. It's really hard to do, so really the easiest way to take these things apart is really just step on a little bit, it pops it open, and you're good to go. So what's in the bucket, of course, your hat, and then what we have is, you got a controller. So what I'm going to do is put the controller up here, okay? Then what we have is our main harness. Now this is going to go from the controller through the firewall, and we're going all the way down the frame and then up to the spreader. So that's our main harness. Of course, installation instructions. So you want to read this too before you operate anything. And then we have our bag of power wires. So in the bag, we have our circuit breaker. That's going to go in the engine compartment. I'm going to put it up here. We have our positive red wire. So this is going to go from the battery to the circuit breaker. That's what I'm kind of laying it out for you like this. And then we have our other power harness. Now this has two wires, a black and a red. So the red wire is going to go to the other side of the circuit breaker. And then the black wire is going to go to the battery ground or a good ground on the fender wall that the battery's hooked up to. And then this wire is fed through the firewall and connects to the controller. So really, power, circuit breaker, power ground to the controller, from the controller all the way back to the vibrator, the spinner, and the auger. And then we're done. And then of course the bucket now is empty, so you use it as a car wash bucket. So, all right, let's pop the hood and let's start wiring this up. All right, so we're under the hood, and this truck has a lot of accessories on it, so there's a lot of wires. You got to be really careful. And you also want to take off the negative post so we don't, short circuit anything like that. So what we're going to do is we located the positive on the battery, and again, there's a lot of wires here. So here's the positive, and there's the negative. Again, we're going to go right to the battery on this. So the first thing we're going to do is, here's our red wire. So one of them has a larger eyelet, and one has a smaller one. The smaller one is going to go to our circuit breaker. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just open the circuit breaker so power's not going to go to the other side right now. So what I'm going to do is make sure, and I want to find a location for the circuit breaker. So actually I'm just going to put it right here for right now. As long as it's below the hood, I think we're going to be okay. Of course there's other spots we could put it, but since they have the solenoid there, we're just going to put it right here. Again, each truck is different. So you just find a great spot, and we're just going to start right there. So what I'm going to do is just take one of the I'm going to take the nut off. Okay. Again, we have two mounting holes. I'm just going to use one for right now. Of course, you want to put the other one on too. So. pretty stable. So then I'm just going to add positive to the side. Make sure that's snug. And then of course I'm going to run this to the positive on the battery. All right, so the circuit breaker's on. Now, what we want to do is find a location in the firewall that we're going to feed wires through. Some trucks are different than others. Sometimes they will have an access panel that you're going to go through. Some have a grommet that you go through. But if we look down in here, I can see a wire going through the firewall. And what we're going to do is we're going to feed this wire from the inside out. So what we're doing, we're going to be feeding the two wires, one black, one red, through the firewall and into the engine compartment. So the larger end, stays inside. So I'm going to go inside the thing and we're just going to feed it through probably this top hole here. And one thing I want to say also to be safe is if there isn't an access hole, you're going to have to drill a hole. For one harness here, you're going to have to drill a hole about 1/2 inch. But for the main harness, you're going to have to drill like 1.5 inch hole. Now some people, instead of drilling a 1/2 inch hole, they actually take the connectors out of the connector, or the wires out of the connector, and they mark them. Then they shove the wire through, because then you're only drilling a 1 inch hole. And I'll explain that to you when we're feeding that wire. But what I usually do is I check here, then I go inside and check, and then I'll drill a small hole. And what I'll do is I'll put like a wire, a straw, something through that hole just to make sure there's nothing else around there. This way, when you drill the bigger hole, you're not going to be hitting any wires and stuff like that. So again, let me go feed this wire through that, that access hole, and we'll go from there. All right, so we're inside the cab. Of course, you can't see me, but we'll be feeding the positive wire through. I'm sorry, the negative wire through, that's black. And then should be able to get this positive wire through. So you got the red and black coming through. So let's just keep feeding these in here. So, all right, so that's one harness we're going to feed through. Now we're going to hook this up to the battery. All right, so we pulled the wire through, and then now what we're going to do is we're going to hook up the positive to the circuit breaker. Of course, again, we have the circuit breaker off. So it's not going nowhere. The power ain't going anywhere. All right, so that hooked up, and now we're going to hook up the ground now. There's the black wire. Of course, it has a big loop on it. That means it goes to the battery. All right, we got that hooked up. All right, now we're going to go inside, and we have to look at our main harness. That's going to go through the firewall all the way back to the spreader and to the controller. All right, so now we're in the cab, and it's controller time. So what we're going to do is, again, our controller is part number 3014199. It works for all the SHPE spreaders. So what I'm going to do is just take it out of the box. Actually, in the box, there's actually instructions, which is great, and it tells you a lot about the controller. and also shows you how to wire everything up. So it's nice to have. We'll put this up here for now. So in our wonderfully packed thing is our controller, and what you have here is your controller. You got the part number and then date of manufacturer on top, but out of the back you have two connections. One is your power connection, which we just did on the battery, which has a red end, just like this one. So those two are going to go together. And then this one here goes to our main harness that goes through the firewall, down through the frame, into the spreader. And that is a large connection, and I'll show you it right here. Right there, so those go together. Plugs into that. So as you see, this is pretty large. It's about 1.5 inches from here to here. So what you could do is, because we're going to find another, I know a grommet, again, every truck's different. We could try to feed it through that same hole or make another hole just for this harness. So, but we're going to be feeding from the engine compartment in, because there's a lot of wire here and the other ends are a lot larger than this one. So again, this will feed in. So we're going to do that in a second, but I just want you to see the controller. And again, the bracket comes with it, so you want to find a spot, of course, that's relatively, safe, away from the heater ducts and stuff, and easy to get to. So, but we're going to put that here for now, and then we're going to feed this harness in from the engine compartment. All right, here we are back in the front of the truck. We got the main harness here. So like I told you before, some trucks have an access panel or a boot, a grommet where we shove it through. Luckily, this truck has one of those where I just push the grommet out, or the little boot, and now we're going to shove this end here. Again, if you had to on certain trucks, you're going to have to drill, like I said, 1.5 inch hole just to shove this through. But like I said, some people do take all the pins out, mark them, so they don't have to drill a smaller hole. So, but on this truck, we're lucky there's a hole big enough that we can shove this through. So what we're going to do, I'm going to shove it through the firewall. It'll go inside, and then the rest of this harness, we're going to drop down, and then we're going to start running it all the way back to the back of the truck, and again, hook it up to the spreader. Again, we're going to run it down the C channel of the frame and make sure it's safe, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So I'm just going to start shoving this thing now. All right, so you can see I shoved this through the firewall. Here it is. I'm just going to bring it out a little bit. Again, about, you kind of want to put it in position, because most likely I'm going to put the controller right here. So you see it'll just fit right there with the controller. So we'll plug that in a little bit. But now let's run that harness down the frame. All right, got some ties, got my cutters. Now we're going to run this harness all the way to the back. Got out from underneath the truck. Again, it's really nice to wear safety glasses running underneath the truck and doing all this work, just so you don't get anything in your eyes, just for protection. But so we got the wires run. I'm bringing the wires up through the, from the frame to the bumper. Here they all are. So you have this brown wire here. A lot of people say, hey Jim, what's that brown wire for? Well, this is for like an auxiliary light. So if you want to put like a light right here, LED light, to shine on your spread pattern, this brings the power. So when you turn on the controller, the light comes on. You just got to run a ground wire, for it. We're going to just tape this off today. So I'm going to put the chute on now. We're going to plug it up. We're going to try it. Hopefully everything works, and we'll go from there. Lift the chute up, and we're going to get this on. So what you do is just get on the 2 pins, slide it in, make sure that your spring pins are out. I'm going to preload them. Locks it in. And here's the one. And we're going to run this wire over here. So remember, on all connections, we're going to put dielectric grease on there, to make sure, it's protected. Take the dust cap off. I'm gonna plug that in. I thought these would go together. There they go. Then I'm going to plug this to this. It's for the spinner motor. Like I said, then I'm just going to tuck this stuff away so it looks a lot neater. I'm going to tie it up. Again, you don't want nothing by the spinner, so again, I'm going to tie this up afterwards. So now we got the chute on. Now let's go see if it works. All right, so I plugged in the power in the back here, and also plugged in the main harness. And we just want to check it before we mount the controller too. So to make sure we got power, I also checked the circuit breaker, make sure that was, closed, and there we go. Looks like it powers up. So now we're going to check that back at the spinner, so make sure everything works. But again, like I was saying before, you'd like to find a good spot for the controller, and you might want to talk with the owner of the vehicle. Where do you want the controller to be? Sometimes they might want it sitting somewhere, but there's a bracket with it, and that's what you want to use, or there might be some other options that they want. So let's turn on the spinner. I can hear it. And the auger. Let's go see if those are running. All right, spinner's working. Now I'm going to come here and check the auger. That's moving. All right, looks like a successful installation. Happy salting. So, again, main few things here. Make sure you have the right spreader for the truck. Again, when you route that harness, make sure it's not near the exhaust, drive shaft, or anything like that. Make sure it's tucked away in that C channel of the frame, away from everything. So again, if you like this video, smash that like button, subscribe, become part of that SaltDogg family. Also, if you have any questions, give us a call. Check out our website at buyersproducts.com. Email us, and we'll be glad to help you. Now go buy a dog and chase a storm.